We're starting off with the F tier. We usually have done like this U tier, which I've called the unknown tier, which is just too many unknown pieces that I didn't feel like ranking them in any tier just out of intellectual honesty. But there weren't enough teams. And if there are some where I didn't have a great handle on, I'll touch on them when I get to them. But the F tier, it's 4 teams deep. You could probably guess a few of these. The first one we're going to start off with is a team who is in the A tier of their front 7. It's the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I kind of like their safety position. Cam Curl, Cam Kinchins, I think they could be okay there. But when your starting 2 outside corners are a 32-year-old Darius Williams and a 30-year-old Akella Witherspoon, I'm worried. Now, the way they scheme up the defense, it obviously is built to take advantage of that front 7. They know they are just trying to limit big plays with those corners. They're not investing in it. That's why, they have who they have. They invest in the front 7. But I still, if there's man covered situations, there's situations where those guys need to be left on an island, they have big question marks. The next one, which might be, unfortunately, the worst secondary in the NFL right now. If I had to rank them all, I think it would be. It's the Las Vegas Raiders. They weren't very good a year ago, and they probably lost their best player in Trayvon Merrick from it. They're going to be asking Darian Porter, their 3rd rounder, to do a lot of heavy lifting, and he wasn't even a starter last year. They're asking Eric Stokes to be a starter, who, again, wasn't even a starter last year for the Green Bay Packers. So it is not a great group there in Las Vegas. Then the Miami Dolphins. It was bad before they traded Jalen Ramsey. I think it's probably worse after the trade. I think, like I said, I lean towards corners. Minkah Fitzpatrick, obviously a great safety, but he's probably as good as the guy you lost in free agency in Javon Holland. So they've only taken a step backwards from a year ago. I said, I had in the notes before the show, I said Minkah and then meh, but you came in to remind me that, hey, Kader Kohou can play. I agree. Kader Kohou is one of the better slot corners in the league. Darth Kader, big fan of his. And then last, but one of the probably most successful secondaries in this tier a year ago is the Minnesota Vikings. But they lost 2 big guys, Cam Bynum, Stephon Gilmore, and kind of backfilled with Isaiah Rodgers, Jeff Okudah. That is not inspiring confidence in me. Obviously, Brian Flores is a magician. They'll probably still get good results out of this unit, but there's only so much you can put lipstick on a pig. There is not a lot of talent walking through that door for this Vikings team.
The Vikings are fascinating because so much of it is Brian Flores, and that's not to take away from the effort that the players put on the field, but anyone who watches that tape, or maybe Spags with Kansas City is another one. It's like, okay, these guys are good, but it's the genius up in the booth or on the sideline that is putting them in position to do that. I'm worried about the Vikings. I am. That division is a nightmare. But I will say, we mentioned how there are a few linebackers who can really elevate a secondary, and Ivan Pace Jr. is one of them, right? That Flores defense is just an amoeba. Ivan Pace Jr. is more athletic than a lot of quarterbacks give him credit for, and he can wreak havoc. Blake Cashman, go Gophers, by the way. Blake Cashman is a monster as well. So that positionless linebacker room will help them a lot. They obviously have a pass rush. And the Raiders are interesting because, yes, they were terrible last year, but Pete Carroll kept on Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator from a year ago. So I don't know what the plan is, but apparently they have one. But I can't disagree with too much in this F tier. The Vikings may seem shocking to a lot, but it's justified.
Yeah, I do think the Vikings, I do wonder if they still are going to make a move to add to this unit, because we've seen they're kind of in this win now mode with JJ McCarthy, with that rookie deal quarterback, that it wouldn't surprise me if they try just to make some sort of, even if it's just adding more vets to that room, any way they can do it, because right now I'd be worried. I mean, you're trying to go through the gauntlet of the NFC playoffs to the Super Bowl with this secondary, it's going to get picked on. I just think it's going to get picked on, unfortunately.
The last thing a young quarterback needs is a defense that gives up points quickly, right? And again, I want to reiterate, it's an F-tier secondary. I do not expect them to finish the season as the 28th ranked defense by any means. It's just a standpoint of Flores is going to have to work a lot. Harrison Smith coming back for what's likely his retirement tour, if you're reading between the lines a little bit. They will play better than the tier shows, but JJ is going to need them to really elevate their game.
Yeah, and when we did front sevens, they were an S tier front seven. Yeah. So if you're picking, if you're going to have that imbalance, right, that's the imbalance you'd probably want. We've seen some S tier secondaries or close to it. I think the Patriots last year is one that's like, that was a damn good secondary. They had terrible results because they didn't sack the quarterback or didn't get it at quarterbacks at all. So if you were going to build a team, this is probably the way you would want to go about it. All right, that's the F tier. All right, your D tier. And it's only 4 teams. I didn't want to kill a lot of secondaries. I still think there's reason to be excited about even these teams in this one. But it's just hard for me to think that any of these 4 units will be excellent this upcoming season. There's one that could be, but all 4 have serious question marks, starting with the Carolina Panthers. Now, they added to it. Obviously, last year was kind of J.C. Horn doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but they added Trayvon Merrick. So it should get better, but they didn't really add in the draft. They only added Lathan Ransom as a day 3 pick, and he's definitely more of a box safety than coverage safety. It was second worst against the pass a year ago. So Panthers have a lot of proving to do with this young unit. Probably the closest to an F tier unit in this D tier, but I added them to the D tier. Jaguars are in this as well. And this is the one where I'm like, they could go way above this.
Yeah.
It just depends on what Travis Hunter is. Is he a wide receiver who moonlights in very limited situations at corner? Or is he really going to try to play full-time both ways and be, a lockdown guy crossing Tyson Campbell? Because this defense gave up the most passing yards in the NFL last year. And now they had, Tyson Campbell missed a good chunk of last season. They've changed defensive coordinators. Anthony Campanelli came over from the Packers, so you should be getting better results from that. They played way too much man coverage last year for my liking, given the talent they had. But I still have serious question marks about the safety position. Eric Murray was a liability last year in Houston, coming over to play safety. Darnell Savage is not a run defender by any means, even if he's not terrible in coverage, but he'll give up some big plays on his own. So this has big question marks. Why I put him in the D tier, but I could see them way outplaying that because there is talent there, and they added Jordan Lewis in the slot. Chargers also make this tier, obviously losing Christian Fulton this offseason, backfilling him with Dante Jackson. While, Tarheeb Still, Cam Hart, I thought they were, great for 5th-round rookies. They're still not like great corners on their own. I don't, just from watching, like they impressed for a day 3 pick, but they are not all of a sudden elevating the level of this cornerback group into a group that you trust to go one-on-one against opposing wide receivers. Derwin James, obviously the headliner, but with his injury history, he is not the same guy that he was early on in his career. And the last team in this, it's Cincinnati Bengals. They bring back everyone from a year ago. Not sure that's a great thing, but these guys are still all young. I think every single one besides Geno Stone in this secondary are on their rookie deals with DJ Turner, Cam Taylor-Britt, Dax Hill, who unfortunately is coming off an ACL tear, and Jordan Battle. The unit's intact. I think you'll get better results from Al Golden, but they had so many miscommunications and so many big plays given up last year that I'm going to need to see it before I believe it with that unit.
Okay. Let's start with Jacksonville, because obviously with Travis Hunter, that's the most exciting team to talk about. What excites me about them outside of Travis, though, is one, Anthony Campanelli coming over from Green Bay. What does Jeff Hafley do? He keeps everything in front of his defense. We mentioned the interceptions that Xavier McKinney had to start last year. They were struggling, but he had a safety who he said, hey, keep everything in front of you and it will be fine. And as the season goes on, they get a little more complex, a little more complicated. Expect a very simple defense from Jacksonville. Expect Campanelli to just say, hey, back up if you got to. We'll blitz a little bit, but let's just assess what we got. Let's get guys comfortable, especially some of those younger guys, and we will improve from there. Another rookie corner to look out for in Jacksonville, by the way, Jabbar Muhammad. A monster at Oregon, slipped a little bit, but a monster at Washington, then a monster at Oregon. 5'9", so I understand why people got scared. I can promise you he will see the field plenty by season's end. And we'll mention Cincinnati, right? It can't get worse, right? There's no way it can get worse. But even throughout last year, I'm looking at every single player thinking, Cam Taylor-Britt is a dog. Dax Hill's a dog. How can it be this bad? So if nothing else, Al Golden can just rally the troops and just say, as long as we're all on the same page, we are athletic enough and smart enough to play better than last year. They know that they're going to score points. They get to go out there and play stress-free. Burrow and them are going to hang 40 on anybody. All we have to do is give it 39 or less. That's all. And if they go out there with that mindset, I refuse to believe that the Bengals secondary is as bad as we saw. So I'm glad that they are not in the F tier.
I am in complete agreement with you. I think this team is far more talented than D tier. And I think that Al Golden was a great hire at DC to unlock it, because just from talking to people, whether it's beat reporters, people in the know in Cincinnati, where I used to live, they felt the rift between the players in the secondary and former defensive coordinator. Why am I blanking on his name right now? But
Anarumo.
Lou Anarumo, former DC Lou Anarumo, and just how much he asked them to do. Like Lou Anarumo is a kind of kitchen sink DC where game plan week to week, you'll run, every coverage under the sun. They are liable to run at any given time, right? That is his philosophy. Al Golden, if you watch him at Notre Dame and what they did, it's not that whatsoever. It is so much simpler. It is so much more matchup concept based where you're taking advantage of guys who are good. And that's what you have in the secondary. Dax Hill is a freak athlete who can play man coverage. DJ Turner ran the 4.2s. Like these guys can go mano-a-mano. It's when they are asked to do complex stuff is when I thought I saw is when they broke down the most last season. So I think you'll see an improved team, but it's obviously going to happen with the pass rush up front too. That hung them out to dry. And the hardest thing to do to separate the confidence that a secondary gets to play with when you have a pass rush in front of you versus when you don't.